Hello everyone, how's it going? This video is a follow-on segment discussing Shane Smiskell's Stock Additions branch to OpenPilot. In my last video, I showed how to install Stock Additions on the Comma 2 platform, and now that it's installed, I'm going to show how to access the Stock Additions menu so that you can make custom modifications to the tuning settings that affect your autopilot driving experience. And then, I'm going to provide an overview of what each of those settings do based on the description provided directly from Shane Smiskell's Stock Additions GitHub site. Now, first of all, before I begin, I would like to apologize to the ambient noise. I live next to a train rail and I live next to a recycle center. So there's going to be a lot of shaking and a lot of trains going by. So if you don't hear me, let me know in the comment section and I'll redo the video. The first thing we're going to do is open up an SSH session to the Comma 2. I'm using PuTTY on a Windows machine. PuTTY is my preference for using SSH utilities on Windows, and I've created a saved profile for my Comma 2 because I access it frequently. Again, there is a wiki on the OpenPilot wiki on how to configure various methods of accessing the Comma 2 via SSH. So if you don't have SSH configured, you'll need to do that before you can communicate with the Comma 2. Of course, that link and all the other links to mentioned websites in this video are provided in the description. And before we begin, please, just a safety note, always make sure you have a safe testing area where you can safely drive and even pull over if necessary without causing an unsafe situation to any vehicle or pedestrian traffic. I also always recommend making only one change at a time and in small values for each test drive. There's really no way of telling how each setting is going to react to your specific brand and make of car. So just to play it safe, you should take it slow, making small changes over time. And as usual, I'll be testing Stock Additions on my new model year Japanese right-hand drive Toyota RAV4 Hybrid with TSS2. With that said, let's go ahead and begin. Now I've already opened up SSH. When you open up SSH, it takes you to the data OpenPilot directory by default when you communicate with the comma. If we type ls for the list command, we can see the op_edit.py script, and we're going to execute that by typing ./op_edit.py, which tells the computer to run that file from the current working directory. Now we can see that the menu has been initialized, and we have, by default, 26 options that we can use to make modifications to the Stock Addition settings on this modified version of OpenPilot. So beginning with option 1, this allows us to offset the center calibration point of the car in its lane from the perspective of the mounted Comma 2 device on the windshield of your car. This setting is one reason I specifically chose to test this branch in my vehicle, because I have a right-hand drive car and it likes to hug the left side of the lane, which at times can allow for me to have a really uncomfortable driving experience with vehicles in the adjacent lane. In this example, I've set my offset to a negative 0.1. This will make my center starting point slightly right to center. And for this setting, positive values are left of center and negative values are right of center. Options 2 through 4 all work together to achieve the dynamic follow feature of Stock Additions. This is the setting that defines the distance between your car and the lead car in front of you, and in Stock Additions, you're able to change this manually or allow Comma 2 to select this distance for you. Now, you don't necessarily need to make any changes to these settings from the command line menu, because one of the nice features of Stock Additions is that it provides additional GUI buttons on the Comma 2 screen. This button allows you to choose 4 predefined custom dynamic follow options, starting with automatic, which attempts to choose one of the 3 manual options automatically based on your recent driving conditions. The next setting is traffic for the closest setting relaxed for medium distance setting, and then finally road trip for the farthest setting. For specific preset distance, we can see the distance chart on the GitHub page. I'll bring that up for you here. So if we go down, this dynamic follow profile chart provides a range of anywhere from 100 to 220 feet of distance, or 0.9 to 1.8 seconds distance behind the lead car. Now, if you're comfortable with how Stock Editions currently provides distance to the lead vehicle based on these presets and your driving culture in your area, there's really no need to change any of these values for these menu items. However, these settings can be changed to a certain extent to more closely tune the driving experience to match the driving culture for your area. For example, I've described how driving in Japan requires a much closer lead car position, and you can see that in my past videos linked in the description and at the end of this video. This is another feature of why I chose this branch to test, and for this purpose, I'm going to go ahead and change these settings to their lowest settings to get me as close to the lead car as the software allows me to do. And I'm going to do that by selecting option number 2. I will set it to traffic, which is the closest of the manual settings. And I'll hit select yes to save it. And then I'll select option number 3. And I'm going to select 0.85. So 0.85 for option number 3 and option number 4 are the lowest settings that the software will allow you to make the change to, as is described in this area here. So I'm going to hit enter there. And then if it takes you back to this yellow screen here, it tells you just hit enter and it'll take you back to the main menu. And then I'm going to go back to option 4 and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to set 0.85 and hit enter again. And now you can see option 3 and option 4 are both 0.85. So option number 3 is the global dynamic follow modification. And option number 4 is the minimum amount of distance that is allowed to follow the lead car. Now, I'll be honest, these settings still aren't going to get me as close as I really want to, but it's the best I'm really going to be able to achieve with the current allowable variables that the software provides. Okay, option number 5 applies to assisted lane changes. The default setting for this option is true, which tells OpenPilot that after the blinker is turned on, the driver must lightly turn the steering wheel in the direction of the lane change, and then autopilot will take over to complete the lane change. I did test this feature out on stock OpenPilot during my initial test drive, also linked to the end of this video, and it worked pretty well. If this option is set to false, the driver should only have to turn on the blinker to initialize the lane change. This is a feature I'm interested in testing, so I'm going to go ahead and set this to false so I can try it out later. So option number 5 and false. Do I want to save this? Yes. And it's saved. And now you can see option number 5, Alka nudge required, false. Menu option 6 tells OpenPilot the minimum speed required in miles per hour before OpenPilot will initiate unassisted lane change. The default is 25 miles per hour or 40 kilometers an hour. Menu option 7 allows you to modify the steer ratio for your type of vehicle. The default is none, which tells the comma 2 to use the Autopilot AI learning network. So in theory, the default setting should allow the turning of your vehicle to improve based on your past drives, as well as uploaded information based on your make of vehicle. There are multiple users that have provided recommended custom steer ratios, but this is something independent to your make of vehicle. So if you want to experiment with this setting, I recommend asking the OpenPilot Discord community. I haven't experimented in depth with the custom tuning profiles yet on my RAV4, but it's something I plan to do in the near future. Menu option 8 turns lane speed alerts off by default. Option 9 defaults hotspot uploads across a cell phone hotspot to off. If you have a large data plan or don't have a Wi-Fi network, you can turn this to on to upload your driving data, which is useful for fingerprinting and helping to improve the AI learning network. Menu option 10 applies to cars that have a custom hardware pedal system or similar installed. If you don't, I would just leave this false. Menu 11 defaults to true to disengage autopilot when you press the gas pedal. This is the same as stock OpenPilot, so if you are used to this, I would just recommend not to change it. Menu option 12 is the behavior for new updates. Off turns off updates, which is useful. For example, if you're happy with your current version of software and see no need to upgrade it, or if you have a custom fingerprint and don't want to re-update the values.py file in addition to the software update. Setting this option to alert provides a manual GUI button for update, and Auto will automatically download, update, and reboot the comma 2. I don't recommend using the auto setting as it could reset your manually configured settings, and Murphy's Law says that's going to happen when it's least convenient, like right before a long road trip. Menu 13 is dynamic gas and is intended to provide a better driving experience and fuel efficiency in stop and go traffic under 20 miles per hour if your car has that capability. Menu 14 hides the alert for which dynamic follow setting software has selected if you have auto selected in either the command line or the GUI button. Menu 15 logs auto dynamic follow data. I'm not sure if this data gets uploaded to the AI learning network or not. The default is false. I don't see any benefit to changing this setting at this point in time. Menu 16 and 17 are an interesting feature that automatically changes the center lane offset and for how long from the comma 2 perspective when it sees single lane oncoming traffic. This setting is limited to 35 to 60 miles per hour range. Honestly, I drive on pretty narrow roads in Japan, and I don't remember any time on my long OpenPilot drive where I would need an option like this for oncoming traffic. There were a couple times I could have used it for adjacent traffic, but I think the static camera offset setting in menu option 1 is better suited for me. Menu option 18 is to provide backward compatibility for predicated white panda systems. I'm using the comma 2, so I'll just leave this setting alone. Menu 19 is an option that slows down for curves using planner code from stock editions version 0.5 and 0.6. I haven't been able to test the functionality of this setting yet, but I plan to in the near future when I start getting into tuning. Menu 20, I haven't been able to find any additional information on it besides the menu description. The default is true, and I don't see any reason at this point to change it. Options 21 through 24 are tuning profiles based on ND and PID tuning algorithms. These are either or settings, and as far as I've come to understand, not to be used in tandem. I plan on testing these out in the near future when I get into tuning. However, if you're more interested in finding out more about PID or ND tuning, there's a lot of discussion about these two tuning algorithms on the Discord channels. Option 25 enables stop and go if your car has this feature. Now, there isn't any information immediately available on this option outside the description, and the description is pretty vague. The description only says some cars support stop and go You just need to enable this. Now, I'm not sure yet if this simply turns on stop and go capability for traffic conditions, or if it fixes the stop creep stop bug that are seen in some vehicles like Toyotas. This will be something I'll keep in mind while I conduct my tests in the near future. Option 26 allows you to enter your Discord username for the intention of sending debug information to that account. You also have the option of modifying the menu. As you can see, there's also a live tuning feature which, when enabled, allows for auto-tuning through AI learning. Again, this is another tuning option I'll be saving for the near future when I can conduct those options all with a single focus. Once you're happy with your settings, you can type E or exit and hit enter to exit, and this will take you back to the SSH terminal. The GitHub says changes will take effect within 1 minute, but I'm going to go ahead and type reboot anyway, just because I want to make sure that those configuration settings are loaded. So type reboot. And that's it. Super easy, right? Well, that's not usually the case. Unless you know exactly how each of these settings is going to react to your brand and make a vehicle, you're almost certainly going to run into situations where your car could alarm out with dash alarms or even on the Comma 2 itself. I've already had a couple test runs where on the Comma 2 it said it lost complete control, which it does by turning the Comma 2 into a big red screen and telling me it lost control with the blaring alarm. If this happens, don't worry, stay calm. You'll still have control of the vehicle, but to reset the alarm, you'll need to safely pull over and park, turn the vehicle off, and turn it back on again. I mentioned this so you stay safe and are prepared in the event that this happens, and also to iterate my previous safety warning at the beginning of this video. So with that being said, I hope this video is helpful to you in safely modifying your stock condition settings. If you like or dislike this video, please click the appropriate buttons, and please leave a comment if you have any questions, comments, recommendations, or even requests for upcoming videos. I'm always looking to improve, and any comments helps me provide more relevant content to you. So with that said, thanks for watching, be safe, and good luck out there.